Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Science Thursday, we're going to talk about trade-offs. So let's dive right into it. Now, this is one of the core fundamental concepts of our reality, our actual physical reality, as in our universe have laws and systems in place. Now, when I mean systems, I do not mean human system, as in like other behavior patterns. For example, water boils, that's a normal thing, but here's steel, what temperature it boils, that is directly pressure dependent. What does that mean? That means there is a system in place that takes care of this kind of situation. Basically, take the water, take it in a vacuum, it will evaporate at different temperatures versus if it's in basically sea level or in different planets, weaker gravity or things of that nature. So there is a system in place and this is universal. We cannot tamper with it. Now, what does that mean for us? We have to understand we don't run on magic. This is one core concept that we have to truly understand and accept. Many times people are like, like we kind of say we want magic. Like again, it makes life easier, so we do want it, undeniably so we want it, but consequences when we want to believe something like that, we leave ourselves open to basically fraud. So we have to be very mindful that you cannot expect magic flat out. That's your layer one defense, that's your first line of defense. Then anytime you make a decision about anything, what it does not matter whether it's science, chemistry, biology, physics, and economics or things of that nature, you must let go of other things. Basically, you can only do one thing. Why? Because we live in fixed timeline. We do not have parallel timelines. Like, okay, I'm gonna make this decision, then I'm gonna come back, then I'm gonna go in different timeline, make another decision. Yeah, we do not have that luxury. So flat out, everything must go, and you can only take one path. So this is also critical aspect in your decision making. That should give you some thought, like okay, I should be very mindful with what I do. Another aspect, there always will be side effects and downsides. Now those things are, if anybody is telling you like, oh, this has no downsides or side effects or things of that nature, run. Take nitrous oxide and run, flat out run. This is very critical. Anything real will always have side effects and consequences. You have to be mindful of that. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean you will be like paralyzed by fear or like stuck in indecision? No, actually, it will actually make your life much easier. Basically, it will allow you to make wiser decisions. For example, what to choose, iron or aluminum? Do you need the rigidity that iron provides? If yes, go with iron. If you don't, then enjoy the luxuries of aluminum, of not corroding. So that is very critical that you must understand. There's always trade-offs. So this applies everywhere in everything, and the amount of comments that I have replied, not in this channel specifically, in my main channel, realize that people don't truly understand this aspect very well, that it applies from metal to machine. Like, it does not matter, every machine will have some consequences. So let's say, for example, you will choose iron systems or steel or aluminum. Again, both of them has their pros and cons. For example, you may think, hey, we don't make things out of aluminum because it's expensive. While it is true to some extent, but not to all extent. Because if you want rigidity in something, steel is a better bet. Specifically, if you want something that can withstand very high loads, steel is like, bro, I got this. Aluminum, can you got this? You have to make very hard alloys. Then you have to use so much of it that its weight itself will become another issue at that moment. Like, even if the size will become so huge, the wind will start to play a much more crucial aspect. So it's not like we are choosing steel because it's cheaper. While that is a core factor, other factors also play into equation, where it's like, no, iron is better suited for this. So this applies everywhere. Trade-off, what do you need, how do you like, basically, if for example you want to make a computer case, do you want this computer case to be like used for 5 years or 50 years? If you want to use for 50 years, you want to go with aluminum, thick aluminum's benefit, it will never corrode, and even if it gets banged up, you can polish it again. So you have to be mindful, and this applies to elements and compounds also. For example, I have seen so many people suggesting like hydrogen is the fuel of future. I'm like, bro, I have lived almost 20 years in this world while being aware of these kind of things, and it never panned up. Like, companies years ago started, like as early as 2008 or something like that, they started, like, be it Audi, be it BMW, be it Honda, be it every Tom, Dick and Harry is like hydrogen cars and all that. It just does not work. Why? Because hydrogen is a bad fuel. Why it's a bad fuel? If everybody's like, oh, it burns into hydrogen, that basically burns into water vapor. That does not mean anything. What is its density? What is its carrying capacity? Now, carrying capacity is like 1 kilogram of hydrogen is super awesome compared to 1 kilogram of petrol. Absolutely mathematically true. Just people forget that hydrogen is a gas, And ludicrously light density, what does that mean? That simply means you cannot store 1 kilogram of hydrogen. Flat out, you cannot. Like take 1 liter soda bottle, and that can carry almost 1 liter of petrol, and it will be almost 1 kilogram. So let's just round it off to 1 kilogram. Here's the deal: how much hydrogen you can pack in a soda bottle? Nothing, nothing, not zero, shun, nothing. You have to pressurize that puppy up to 600 psi for it order to have some hydrogen. And how much it will need if you want to liquefy it? Well, you have to liquefy it by cryogenically freezing it, which is like very close to absolute zero, and then you will need 11 liters to come close to 1 kilogram. That's why we don't use hydrogen. Like, that's the first thing that your brain should have figured out. Is like, bro, this puppy is not dense enough. So that's why, heck, even rocket companies are like, bro, hydrogen, it's cool and all, we don't like it, let's go to methane. That is the core reason. You must understand there is always trade-off. So it's like, oh, water vapor output, but here's the deal, we can't carry it anywhere. What's the point? So this applies to everything, even fission and fusion. For example, many times, fusion is the future. While it may be, but so far we have not managed to accomplish it. And on top of that, fusion reactors are ludicrously complex. They are like so complex that you need 5-layer PhD in order to even understand what the hell is happening. I'm like, flat out, we do not understand what's happening. That's why we cannot make a reactor. But you get the point. It's complex. Even if we build it in future, it still would be one of the most complicated machine we ever made. And imagine you made a starship out of that, and it goes into Alpha Centauri. Everything is awesome, is zero. But let's say something bad happens and engine breaks, reactor breaks. What the hell you gonna do? You can't repair it. Like, you can have best technician there, but that reactor is so finicky. Good luck with that. But you take a fission, on the other hand, is super easy. Children can do that. Like, tangibly, there is an actual fusion reactor in a college campus. It actually works. Like, again, simplicity wise, is it safe? Is it awesome? No, but it does have some benefits, which, for example, simplicity. So basically, if you want something that you put and forget, heck, even NASA is building nuclear reactors, which is called kilo power reactor, which is like 1 kilowatt to 10 kilowatt kind of power range, and it's awesome. Simple. Can you expect that kind of system with fusion? Hell no. So that's the whole point. Tritium versus uranium, you will always like. Heck, even in car enthusiast company, where you have aluminum engine block versus iron engine block. Now, iron engine blocks, they allow you to boost that puppy up. So basically, if you want to go fast and furious, you're gonna go iron. But if you want to, be kind on your bank account because of gas mileage, you want to go with aluminum. Always a trade-off. So this is everywhere. It is critical that you accept it as a absolute law of reality. Now, we come to some filters aspect that many people ask, like, why don't you cover this battery or that battery or this or this or this technology? Because 99.99% of the time, they are not manufacturable. Manufacturing is one of the greatest achievement of humanity, because we can take something very complex and we mass produce that puppy like there is no tomorrow. For example, like cars could have 1000 plus parts, more than that, easily, and we can produce them upwards of 1 car a minute. Let that sink in. We can reach that point. And heck, in World War II, for some places, tanks were being produced at that kind of speed. Let that sink in, that we were mass producing tanks. At this point in time, manufacturing allows us the ability that we cannot dream of. Like mobile phones, they are so complex. God damn it, the PCB layouts, the chips manufacturing and all that, but we mass produce this. Like, who cares, man? Just change it every 2 years. Manufacturing, that is the critical. Like, that's the human multiplier. So if you can't make it, manufacture it specifically, removing some niche cases, it's pointless. Flat out, you can like, this battery is super awesome, but we can't manufacture it. What's the point? That's the whole thing. You must be mindful of this sort of trap where it's like, oh, everything works in a lab. Be mindful, everything works in a lab. But the moment you touch a factory, it's like poof, gone. Nothing works in a lab. For example, many times there are two types of engineer. One engineer is like who's building a masterpiece, and another engineer is like who has to mass produce that, and they will always fight against each other. For example, like simple things, let's say you are building a jumbo jet, everything's awesome, everything's good, both of the engineers agree. But another engineer is like, to make the best out of best, let's put a touchscreen in every seat. Here's the deal. Technically, it's not that complicated, and he must have done that in a prototype. So to show the investors and all that, we wanted the moment engineer that who's responsible for mass production is like, bro, I can make the plane in 1 year, but it will take me 6 extra months just to wire the goddamn things that you want to add. Like just for wiring, we do not think about that. Like that's not our day-to-day life, where it's like, wait a minute, there are kilometers of wiring in every plane, and sometimes you want to multiply that by like every chair having its own dedicated system with its own power rails and fail safe and all that jazz. Yeah. No. So that's the whole reality. Complexity is far more higher than what we used to. Because again, it's not our day-to-day life. Most of you do not work in a factory where advanced complicated things are being built. So This is one critical aspect. Anything is possible in lab, but can you actually take the lab idea to actual production with actual efficiency? That is so difficult that like hundreds of battery designs have come out of labs and like zero has reached the market. Zero. So this is one crucial aspect that you must understand about humanity. Like law-wise, science-wise, we kind of hit a stagnant point around in 1970 that we got almost everything down at that point in time, even semiconductors. But reality was it was very inefficient. We were still consuming watts of electricity. Now we consume microwatts of electricity and do much more with that. So basically, our efficiency improved drastically. So if somebody suggests new science, be very mindful. Flat out, we have not created a new science. Even quantum physics is ancient. Like look it up, like how old quantum physics is. For example, Einstein had to deal with it. When was Einstein alive? So think about that. Like flat out, science wise, we are not creating new science. We are just taking the tools and methods, methodology, and we are taking that and refining that puppy very smooth. That's the whole thing we are successfully able to do. Like your Nokia phone, old Nokia phone, the amount of battery that it had, we have more or less the same battery. Heck, we might even have a poorer battery than that. But reality is, it was, let's say, had capacity of, let's say, 2 watt hour, and we take 2 watt hour in modern smartphone. We can do so much more. Like the amount of data throughput we can get, the amount of OLED screen we can run, the amount of compute processing we can do. It's mind-bogglingly awesome. Why? Efficiency. So how do we understand efficiency? And efficiency is this way: theoretical output versus real output. So imagine this way: you sat down, it's like, okay, I want to make an electric bike. So you started with motor is core. You know for a fact that this much battery that you can get out of market. Let's say you already are planning to use a pre-built battery bank. So you know the power output of battery bank. You tested it, oscilloscoped it, everything is awesome. You got it. Now you did your mathematics, like everything fine. Like you figured it out, like this much bearing, this much axle, this much inertia in the rotor, everything. You laid it down and your output was like, dude, it should give me around 100 horsepower. Awesome. You build the damn thing, everything works. Yes, you put it in dynamometer and test the horsepower, it's like 98. What the hell happened? That's reality. That's thermodynamics. Physics does not allow you to reach 100%. It will never allow you to do that. Very close, absolutely. You can go from 90%. Like right now, most of us are at around 80% in most of our industrial application, but 80 to 90 you can do that. It generally costs so much more that people are like, yeah, not worth it. But you get the point. You can go to 90. What about 90 to 99? That's where most of the technology right now is sitting. Basically, technology from 2010 to 2050 will be situated in that zone. What about 100%? Physics does not allow that. Like you can go very close. You can go from 99.99999 to 7. You can go there, but you cannot achieve 100%. So be very mindful. So if any process that you are doing and randomly is showing 100% efficiency, be very careful. And before even thermodynamics kicks in, there are other factors that you're like, yeah, no, just nope. So be very mindful. So it applies to everything. For example, like you go to a specific impulse of in Wikipedia, you will get this graph, and it's like it has theoretical maximum of liquid hydrogen. It's YOLO high levels. We have never received as in like achieved anything comparable to that. Then you take theoretical maximum of hydrogen fuel system in air, like as in for jet engines and all that. We have never came close to that. So reality is always behind theoretical efficiencies. So be very mindful. So if somebody is selling, which on paper makes sense, it's like, sun does give this much energy, this solar panel may be that efficient. It's like, no, that should be your first filter. It's like, dude, that efficiency is too damn high. Pull back, apply some brakes, and be like, can that really happen? Because be mindful, we are like, oh, this should happen, like that's how people got rolled with hydrogen systems. It's like, yeah. So this applies with electric car also and fuel car. So you can buy a fuel car. For example, I bought a car that's like 20 plus kilometer per liter, and yes, in real life we are not getting that. And same with electric cars also. It's like this much range. When you actually drive, it's like, dude, no. So reality is efficiency is king here. So be very aware of it. Now, how do you apply wisdom to this all things? Because again, last time I applied a simple logic to us is where it's like, build it, then I'll take serious note of it. If you don't build it, again, it's a lot. Like you can say carbon nano diamond battery. Here's the deal. Have you actually built it? No. All it is a CG diagram. Out. Don't even think about it. Just like, okay, build it first, then we'll talk. Don't rush it. Relax, chillax. build it first, then we'll take it seriously. So here you have something, another layer of that. For example, in other times, like solar roadway was the one thing that tricked me up. Like I feel so stupid that I actually trusted this idea. It's like, why? Because it was physical, it was real. But again, if I had a brain in 2016 or something like that, I would have figured out there is no free lunch, and they were selling this puppy as like, whoa, it's gonna solve every single problem in this universe. It's like, damn, it's like, build the roadway, it will solve economy, build the roadway, it will produce power, build the roadway, it will reduce carbon emission. I was like, whoa. But that should be your first red flag. If any Tom, Dick and Harry dealing with real products with real reality, there will always be downsides. They will flat out tell you. For example, let's say I'm dealing with a 3D printer right now, and there are printers like direct extruder and Bowden style. Bowden styles are lighter, cheaper, and more efficient, but flat out they cannot deal with flexibles, and even their clarity and reliability is much lower than let's say direct drive. Direct drive flexibles is like, bro, I got this. So again, pros and cons is always there. So if a good printer manufacturer comes out, and if somebody asks like why you're choosing Bowden, they will say, hey, there are trade-off, like, I don't want to use you have to be very slow with flexible pyramids, and you can be, like, there is a stringiness issue and all that. But while we are making those trade-offs, we are getting this awesome thing. That's why we made that decision. That's true. But if somebody says, no, this is more awesome than anybody would need, this is perfect, this is awesome, no, flat out run. That should be the first red flag. There should always be trade-offs. Now, if something is too good to be true, it probably is. This is like a age-old wisdom that we must understand. Like specifically around hormonal years, where we like start to fall stupid, and then we get angry. Then in that anger, we start to be angry at the world, and then we like want to accept, like, give us solution to solve our anger issues. Like, yeah, no, that's not how reality works. Flat out, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Like the amount of people who fell for this is like, whoa. I'm like, some French minister was like, let's waste billions of dollars on this. Actually built it. Company is like, bro, do you really want to? You're like, yeah, okay, you pay me, I'll build it. Yeah, I just broke in 2 days. So wisdom is there. It's like, if there is no downside, run. Like that's how we know medications are real. Every medication you take is like giant list of side effects. That's how we know it's real. So be very mindful. They should apply some secondary context. Like, first, is the science real? Then is it real as in like, can you actually use it, buy it, or things of that nature? So this was my attempt trying to explain something this complicated. Hopefully you liked it, learned from it, and enjoyed it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me a disappointment. Press the comment, press comment, I'm saying it. Type a comment, because I try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.